So we looked at the 1994 qualification and why it was one of the wackiest qualification times of all time. But let's not forget that 24 years later, things were ahead. You had many great teams, World Cup teams, and all that that didn't even make it. You could say that 2018 with the qualification was hard pressed. But the simple fact is that, you know, you can't change history, or can you? Nah, you can't. So anyway, we're leading into the 2020 World Cup, and in the second last video of the Cutters World Cup stories, I will talk about the 2018 World Cup and, the last World Cup. And then the next video, the last one, will be when I talk about this year's World Cup. So buckle up, and hopefully you don't get traumatized from what happened 4 years ago, because I will have to go through a lot of stuff that you don't like, but tough bananas. All right, so 2018 was an important year for many people and watching shows and all that. Netflix was getting on it, Hulu, Amazon. Everyone wanted your streaming money. And this is before COVID started, that people really streamed shows. The simple fact is that for me personally, 2018 was a time of change and all that. This was the third straight year I had failed to grab a job, even a part time job. But 2018 was supposed to be one of my best years because, after all, I had 8 job interviews in the year, but 0 opportunities for work. The worst part was that companies that were close by my house didn't even want to hire me. Even the Canadian Tire at Ottawa South didn't want to hire me for some stupid reason. Because I probably would have been there instead of being at the one at the Boardwalk in Waterloo if things have changed. Now, of course, I learned that maybe I should have taken the Sheridan nursery job and tried to work there and all that. But the problem was, I thought, me and garden stuff don't go hand in hand. I don't know how to make gardens. So the simple fact is that, 2018 was a year of transition for me. Unfortunately, the end of 2018 would prove to be one of the worst downfalls I've had in my life with personal problems and all that. But the simple fact was that 2018 to me was just another year. Just another year of the Leafs sucking, another year of the Jays sucking, another year of the Raptors falling out of the playoffs, and, the Patriots being my only saving hope for my sports sanity. Now, of course, the Raptors did win the title in 2019, but the simple fact is, this is the 2018 World Cup happened before the 2018-19 basketball season. So thus, things were different. So anyway, let's take a look at the 2018 World Cup. So before we get into the World Cup tournament, it's easy to see that, there are a lot of things happening. In January 2009, there would be a bidding procedure for the 2018 and 2022 World Cup because both would be on the same time. 9 countries placed bids for the 2018 World Cup. Mexico withdrew, and Indonesia could not do anything. So it was down to 4 bids at the end of it. By December 2010, we would learn who would be going to host the 2018 and 2022 World Cup. So they did voting. So it was Russia, one vote. Russia had one thing. Then the split group of Portugal and Spain, they wanted to split the World Cup. Belgium and Holland, who split the 2,000 euros, put in a joint bid, and England put in a bid because, it's England. Unfortunately, England was shocked when only 2 people voted for it of the 22 main votes. In round 2, Russia put up 13 out of 22 votes, the majority, to take care of Portugal and Spain, the Portugal-Spain bid. So Russia got the World Cup instead of Portugal-Spain. A lot of people thought it was controversial because, Russian football had a lot of racism, human rights abuses, discrimination against the LGBT community. There would be a conflict in Ukraine, not the one we're living in now, but hundreds of years ago, because of Crimea. And also the simple fact of Russia buying with corruption. Now, the corruption would lead into things, and by 2015, it would be learned that there would be some evidence that it was bought votes and all that. There would be rumors that England would host the 2018 World Cup, but unfortunately did not happen. But it's time for qualification. 209 countries would qualify for 32 spots. Zimbabwe and Indonesia were disqualified. Gibraltar and Kosovo, well, also entered the competition, which was huge and all that. The first qualification game was March 2015 with Timor-Leste versus Mongolia. And the last one in 2017. So there was a lot of surprises and all that. Iceland and Panama would be debutants. Iceland, for their huge Cinderella run in the 2016 Euros and knocking out England in the round of 16 in the process, pissing me off in the process myself with the Viking clap. And then Panama. Panama was a decent country and all that, but they never got to the World Cup. So Panama finally got to the World Cup for the first time. So anyway, of the 32 teams that ended up going to the World Cup, 20 of them actually were in the previous one in 2014. So, 20 countries went to at least back-to-back World Cups out of 32. That's kind of a decent number. Egypt would be back in the World Cup for the first time since 1990 when they were in England's group. Morocco hadn't competed since 98 at the World Cup. Peru, who last appeared in 1982. Senegal in 2002. This would be the second time Senegal would qualify, but the last time Senegal went through was 2002, was when Papa Bouba Diop scored that famous shocking goal to knock out the French in the first match. If you were part of a Nordic country or Arab nation, you would be happy. 3 Nordic countries, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, alongside 4 Arab nations, Egypt, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, and Tunisia, all qualified for the World Cup. But there would be a lot of countries that didn't make it. Let's talk about the ones who didn't even qualify. It was the biggest shock in Europe was Italy, because Italy had been to every World Cup since 1958. Can you believe it? 6 decades, and they never failed to miss the World Cup. I know they hosted 1 World Cup, which they automatically qualified, but still, holy Saint Laurent. The Italians, who were very powerful, and in 2014 they were decent. But Italy faltered in the group stages like England did. But Italy were shocked. They had to play Sweden in a 2-leg playoff. No big deal. You beat Sweden, you're going to be safe. But unfortunately, Sweden shocked them by not giving up a goal to the Italians. So Sweden won the tie 1-0, meaning that Italy was out. But that wasn't the only European blunder. The next one went to the Dutch, Holland, Netherlands, who took 3rd place in 2014 after taking 2nd in 2010 and then beating Spain in a revenge group stage match and then taking 3rd in 2014, crushing Brazil in the process. They didn't qualify. They couldn't believe it. They went to the last 3 World Cups and they couldn't even qualify. Wow. Orange Crush wasn't there. And 4 continental champions didn't even qualify. Cameroon were the African Cup of Nations champs in 2017, but they didn't qualify. The Copa America champions, Chile, didn't even qualify. Chile seems to always do well in Copa America, but when it comes to the World Cup qualifying, they don't do anything. New Zealand was in a playoff in the Oceania Cup against Peru. They lost. And what also happened was the United States missed out. The U.S. had a decent draw, and all the Americans had to do was beat Trinidad and Tobago or even tie them, and they would have gotten into the World Cup automatically. Worst that could have happened, a loss, and then someone else like Panama would have won, and then the U.S. would have to go to the qualifying playoff. But no, they couldn't even do that. They lost to Trinidad 2-0, kind of in a revenge for the Americans going on Trinidad soil to win a trip to the 1990 World Cup. It was just revenge, and the two results actually went against the Americans, so they didn't even get enough points to qualify. So they didn't even qualify. That was the first time since 1986 when, ironically, Canada's only other appearance till this year happened. So yeah, the draw happened. Russia was ranked 65th in the world, and they were the lowest ranked team, and they were the host. So Russia would be drawn in pot one with Russia, Germany, Brazil, Portugal, Argentina, Belgium, France, and Spain. They would all be in different countries and all that. How bad was Russia? New Zealand was ranked 43rd in the world. So, yeah, that's kind of awkward and all that. So, anyway, so that's how people qualified. Now let's go to the group stages. So the group stages were a little bit different. Group A saw the host Russians, as always. The hosts are always Group A, with Uruguay, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. This would be a huge matchup with Egypt and Saudi Arabia part of the Arab world facing each other at least once. Russia crushed Saudi Arabia 5-0 thanks to Cherchev's dynamite goal in extra time, well, in injury time. Uruguay took care of Egypt with Mo Salah being the talisman, 1-0 on a goal by Jimenez. Russia would beat Egypt 3-1. Mo Salah would score for Egypt. Uruguay went all out and beat Saudi Arabia 1-0. So that meant Russia and Uruguay were definitely in because it didn't matter. The dead rubber saw Saudi Arabia get revenge on Egypt. Mo Salah can't believe his luck. His team, he went 0-3 in the World Cup. Uruguay would beat Russia 3-0 because, Uruguay is a powerful team. Group B had Spain, Portugal, Iran, and Morocco in it. Iran beat Morocco 1-0, but later in the day, the big match in Group B happened. Spain and Portugal, rivals to the bitter end. They're neighbors. It was a tough match. Diego Costa scored twice. Nacho Fernandez scored for Spain. But Portugal had the talisman, CR7, Cristiano Ronaldo, who put up not one, not two, but 3 goals. What a hat trick. One of the best hat tricks in World Cup history. In the second stage games, Portugal beat Morocco 1-0 and Spain beat Iran 1-0. So Portugal and Spain kind of knew they needed to tie. Portugal was held to a 1-1 tie as Iran scored a penalty in injury time. Spain would be tied with Morocco 2-2. Morocco surprised everyone. Spain needed a late goal to tie it up. Based on points, Spain and Portugal a win and 2 ties. They got 5 points. They got in. Iran, sorry, but you're not. Group C saw the French, Danes, Peruvians, and Australians battle each other tooth and nail. Australia would have to deal with Peru, the country that knocked their neighbors New Zealand out of qualifying. France beat Australia 2-1. Australia did score once, which was great. They actually tied it on a penalty, but France scored on it. So there was an own goal. Denmark would take down Peru 1-0 on a goal by Poulsen. Denmark tied Australia 1-1 in the second games as Christian Eriksen did his job. Scoring, but Jedinak came in with another penalty. France beat Peru 1-0. And then France couldn't do anything against Denmark 0-0. Peru went balls out to meet Australia 2-0. Unfortunately for Peru, France and Denmark got in. France with 2 wins and a tie. Denmark with a win and 2 ties. So Peru was unlucky. Group D saw Croatia, Argentina, Nigeria, and Iceland in the group. Not just Argentina shocked everyone by scoring first, but then giving up a goal to Iceland. And Iceland tied the mighty Argentines of Leo Messi. Croatia would beat Nigeria 2-0. And then the second games, Croatia crushed Argentina 3-0. Rebic, Modric, Rakitic. Argentina were not ready for prime time. And it looked like Argentina would be screwed over. Nigeria beat Iceland 2-0 to put them in trouble. Argentina would bounce back with a 2-1 win over Nigeria thanks to Messi scoring and Rojo. Croatia would beat Iceland 2-1. Croatia went El Perfecto 3 wins out of 3. Argentina, thanks to that win over Nigeria, snuck past Nigeria and into the group in the knockout stages. Group E saw Brazil, Switzerland, Serbia, and Costa Rica go all out. Serbia beat Costa Rica 1-0. Brazil was held to a tie by Switzerland. Maybe Brazil hasn't recovered from that 4-year-ago shellacking by Germany. Brazil would beat Costa Rica 2-0. The problem was they scored both goals in injury time. Switzerland would beat Serbia 2-1 on goals by Shaka and Shaqiri. Shaqiri. Oh, baby, when you talk like that. I'm off topic. Brazil would crush Serbia 2-0. Paulino Tigo Salas scored. Costa Rica held Switzerland to a mighty tie thanks to an own goal by Switzerland. That was the only point Costa Rica will get is Brazil and Switzerland, thanks to them not losing, got to the knockout stages. Group F saw Sweden, Mexico, Korea, and Germany in. And needless to say, this was easily going to be Germany's group, and maybe Mexico's. Germany and Mexico met in the first match. Germany shockingly loses on a Jared Lozano goal, 1-0 Mexico. It's like, these are the defending freaking champions. Sweden would beat Korea 1-0 on a goal by Granqvist. Mexico would beat Korea 2-1. And at 2-0, they definitely knew they were going to the knockout stages. Germany would then beat Sweden 2-1 on a late goal, a very late goal by Toni Kroos. Almost last kick of the game. The Deutsch won. So now they had to beat South Korea and hope for some help from Mexico. They didn't get the help from Mexico as they got taken out 3-0. But Mexican team officials rested some players. What's worse for Germany is that they couldn't even beat South Korea for sake, hockey puck's sake. 2 late goals in injury time saw South Korea shock Germany, and again for the third straight year. Yeah, again for the third straight World Cup, the hosts were okay, but for the third straight World Cup, the defending champions were out in the group stages. 2010, the Italians went out in the group stages in what was supposed to be the easiest group in World Cup history for them. 2014, the 2010 champions, Spaniards, fell flat, well, losing 5-1 to Holland for revenge. It's not that good. And now the 2014 champion Germans were out in 2018, thanks to them couldn't even beat South freaking Korea. In Group G, Belgium, England, Tunisia, and Panama were playing. Of course, as an England fan, I was nervous. Belgium crushed Panama 3-0, saying the debutantes, not today. England survived thanks to a late goal by Harry Kane to beat Tunisia 2-1. Belgium crushed Tunisia to find powder 5-2 thanks to 2 goals by Hazard and 2 by Lukaku. Lukaku has scored 4 goals in 2 games. Nicely done. England would crush Panama 6-1. The debutantes were not that happy, especially with 3 goals by Harry Kane. Tunisia would actually be happy. Well, they knew that Belgium and England were going to qualify out of the group. So Tunisia beat Panama 2-1. At least Panama scored another goal. But Belgium took care of England 1-0 on a goal by Genyosa. Now, both teams were actually trying to tank, in a sense, because they knew that second place in the group would have an easy road in the bottom half of the draw. Well, England lost, but won in the same time. And finally, Group H. So Colombia, Japan, Senegal, and Poland in it. I figured it was going to be Japan and Poland. Well, I wanted Japan because, Japanese culture, and Poland because my sister-in-law. But Colombia lost to Japan 2-1. It looked good for me. Kagawa and Osaka scored. Senegal beat Poland 2-1. It's like Senegal is going to pull off a Cinderella run just like 2002. Japan and Senegal met each other and tied 2-2. A 76-minute goal by Honda for Japan prevented Senegal from winning. Colombia crushed the start out of Poland 3-0. So it looked bad. So Poland knew they had nothing to play for. But they could fuck Japan over, which they did, winning a 1-0 goal by Bedard. Colombia beat Senegal 1-0. So Colombia went 2-1. All right, no big deal. Colombia is in. But there was one tiny little problem. Group H saw, Poland had 3 points and didn't make it. Group H saw Japan and Senegal fight for second place. Okay. So Japan and Senegal, first tiebreak. What did they do against each other? 2-2 tie. Okay. How many wins did they have? What about the record? Same record. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 tie. How many goals did they score? All right, goals 4. 4. They both scored 4 goals in 3 games. How many did they give up? 4. Are you serious? So Japan and Senegal tied each other, the records were tied, same amount of goals scored and the same amount given up for the goal differential. It was down to the one weird tiebreak, fair play points. And because Japan was more clean than Senegal, Japan got into the knockout stage, Senegal didn't. That is going to be the worst possible way to falter in a knockout stage, is lose by fair play points. Ugh. Well, then now we got the knockout stages. First up on June 30th, 2018, France took on Argentina. There will only be 1 game on the 30th. pathetic. There should be at least 2. France and Argentina had a classic knockout game. 7 goals combined. And it's like, wow, if that first game was a clanger like this one, was a banger like this one, how about the other ones? The other ones will have to measure up. France and Argentina. It would be Griezmann, the youngster, against the oldster, Messi. France would score 2 goals by Mbappe. Andre Pavard and Antoine Griezmann scored. Argentina had Di Maria, Marcelo, and Aguero scored, but no Messi. And France took out Argentina 4-3. And then it was Canada Day 2018. It was a nice time to go down to Cambridge with Bill and his buddies. And, of course, it was hot, sweltering hot. It didn't help that we went to a buffet at an Indian restaurant. But, yeah, it was a hot Canada Day. Spain and Russia would face each other. Spain had a goal thanks to an own goal. So it looked like Spain was going to beat Russia. But a goal by Shiba in a 1-1 tie. Then it was on to penalties. Both teams scored their first 2, and then Koke came up for Spain. Missed. Golovin scored for Russia. Sergio Ramos scored for Spain. Cherchiev scored for Russia. It was 4-3. All Aspas had to do was score. If he scored, then that puts Russia as 5th kicker on the line. But somehow, in some way, and his name escapes me, the Russian goalie. The Russian goalie made a fantastic save to save the day, and Spain was out. Russia, yes, they're host, and almost automatically that means a trip to the knockout stages. But Russia didn't. They made it to the knockout stages, and they took out Spain, of all countries. What a day for Akinfeev. So the second game on Canada Day was also gone to penalties. Croatia and Denmark battled each other. Both teams scored in the first 5 minutes. Denmark scored within the first minute, and then Mandzukic for Croatia tied it up. So they couldn't find anything. 2 goals in 5 minutes. That was actually on pace for, 36 goals. But no, there was only 2. So they went down to penalties. Denmark had 3 penalties saved. Croatia scored 3 penalties. Croatia wins 3-2. Poor Kasper Schmeichel. So July 2nd saw 2 quarterfinals themselves. Oh, sorry. My sources say that Uruguay beat Portugal on June 30th, 2-1. So we were going to see if the cards were right, we would have seen CR7 versus Messi in the quarterfinals. But TV ratings went down as Uruguay and France said, nope, you're not doing that. But the Portugal's loss was actually my game because I had a grudge against the Portuguese soccer team since Cristiano Ronaldo winked at Rooney, got Rooney sent off, and England lost to Portugal on penalties in the 2006 World Cup. For 12 years, I harbored ill will towards the Portuguese soccer team. Not towards Portuguese people, but their soccer team. Fortunately, though, once England had to beat Colombia, and the hatred would be finished because as long as England and Portugal were both in the same tournament, and if England did better than Portugal, that was the end of the grudge. Of course, I would have to wait till July 3rd to watch that. July 2nd, Brazil took on Mexico, the team that seems to always somehow get in the knockout stages despite having the most losses in FIFA World Cup history, whereas Scotland, not even close to that record, never gets to the knockout stages. Regardless, Brazil won 2-0. Belgium and Japan had a very classic game. Japan was up 2-0 when goals in the 48th and 52nd minute. It was like, wow, Japan's going to pull off the rabbit out of the hat and face Brazil in the quarterfinals. I mean, I can't recall Japan being in the quarterfinals of a World Cup. But Belgium, proving themselves as a top 5 team, scored Fontaine and Fellaini made it 2-2. And then a late Japanese attack turned into a counterattack, and Chadley put the ball in the net. And I could figure out all my Japanese brothers and sisters. They were pissed off. No! How can this be? Japan getting in thanks to fair play points, and they were almost rewarded with a quarterfinals bid. Yikes! Well, July 3rd came. After Sweden beat Switzerland on a goal by Emil Forsberg, England knew what they had to do. Take down Colombia. So, thanks to Harry Kane's penalty, it was 1-0, and we're like, yes, sir! But then injury time happens, and then somehow the ball went past Joe Hart in the net. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be joking me! What's worse, penalties beckoned. And what's worse is England's record with penalty kicks. It was like 90, 98, and 06 all over again. It's like, are we doomed to fuck up on penalties as we always do? Well, after 3 kicks, Colombia had all 3 in the net, and Henderson missed his shot after Kane and Rashford put theirs. So I'm like, oh, here we go again. Uribe came up, saved by the goalie. We have a hope. Kieran Trippier, yes, 4-3. So then Baca came up for Colombia. Surprised Mina didn't do it. Or Jaime Rodriguez. Well, Jaime Rodriguez actually was hurt, I think. So he missed. Penalty now down to the 5th kicker, Kian Dyer. Can Dyer win it? He does. And somehow hell has frozen over. England's won on penalties. We're going to the quarterfinals. Wow. So after a few days of rest, it was quarterfinals time. So on July 6th, 2 quarterfinals happened. France took on Uruguay, which was supposed to be Portugal, Argentina, if the TV ratings were going to be there. But no, France won 2-0. Varane and Griezmann scored. Belgium would take on Brazil, and Brazil quarterfinals lost that. Brazil will never forget. Even though Renato Augusto scored for Brazil, Fernandinho made a stupid OG own goal, and Kevin De Bruyne made it 2-0. So Belgium proved why they were a top 5 team. They were going to the semifinals against the French. Rivalry to the end, because France and Belgium really don't like each other. So the 3rd quarterfinal happened on a Saturday morning. England took on Sweden. I was confident because I'm like, it's Sweden. England's going to go to the semifinals. Fortunately, though, my confidence was not shattered as Harry Maguire and Dele Alli made it 2-0 England. Russia and Croatia would have to be the 4th quarterfinal. It was going to either be the host nation or a nation that actually had a lot more soccer fans in Kitchener-Waterloo than I thought. Croatia. So Russia scored a goal by Chechnev. What is with this guy scoring goals? Croatia got a goal by Kramaric. 1-1 on to extra time, extra 30 minutes. And unlike some World Cups past, it's not first goal in extra time wins. So Croatia got a goal by Fida, made it 2-1. It was like Croatia's going to win, but then the Brazilian-born Bruno Fernandes, who was playing for Russia, scored a goal in the 115th minute, and Russia went nuts. They were going to penalty kicks. Well, after all, Russia and Croatia both won their first knockout game by penalties, so someone's going to be 2-0 in kicks. Unfortunately for Russia, Fernandes, who was the hero to tie the game, was the GOAT, missing a key penalty. After that, Croatia hit all 3 of their remaining chances and won 4-3 on penalties. Russia lived by the penalty shootout, died by the penalty shootout. A couple of days later, it was the semifinals. First semifinal was France versus Belgium, July 10th. It was a battle royale. I remember France and Belgium, 1986, for 3rd place. But anyway, Belgium was supposed to beat France. Well, tell that to the French, as an unknown guy by the name of Umiti scored, and France beat Belgium 1-0. So, going into the semifinal, as an England fan, I'm like, well, it's France. I have a bad feeling we're going to lose the final, but at least England will make the final. So I would have a laissez-faire approach. But of course, one step at a time. The semi. Kian Trippier made it 1-0 in the 5th minute. And I'm like, here we go. We got this. Perisic. Damn you, Perisic. 68th minute, 1-1. And then in the 109th minute, or the 19th minute of extra time, Mandzukic scored. Croatia beats England. Kitchener went nuts because, Croatian fans, England fans like myself and Bill and many others, crushed. England at least would have one more game, the 3rd place game. But sadly, though, Belgium beat England just like they did in the group stage. This time, Belgium really had their best players. England didn't. Well, it was off to the final. France versus Croatia. Croatia, in 20 years prior, had made a surprise run to the Final Four, where they actually lost to France thanks to France play acting and a golden goal by Emmanuel Petit or something. No, Emmanuel Petit got in trouble for what should not have been a red card offense. That meant that he would have been in the final. But as it is, France and Croatia would battle each other. France would score an own goal by Mandzukic, who made a misclear of a pass. Croatia did tie the game on a goal by Perisic, 1-1. But Antoine Griezmann, showing why he's the future of French football, made it 2-1. And then Paul Pogba, of all people, made it 3-1. LA goal by Mbappe, who proved to be the best young player in the tournament, made it 4-1 France. Croatia was out of it. They did score a goal by Mandzukic, but game set match. Harry Kane ended up with 6 goals in the tournament, which actually ended up being the record and the Golden Boot, giving England their second Golden Boot winner for goals in a tournament, behind Gary Lineker in '86. Lukaku had 4 goals in 2 games. Yeah, he couldn't score anywhere else. He definitely would have been the Golden Boot winner. But the worst part was that there were 12 own goals in this tournament. The record was 6 in 1998, but it doubled to 12. I guess they gave a lot of own goals and all that. So Luka Modric won the Golden Ball for Best Overall Player, which was weird because no French player won. I would have given it to Griezmann. Belgium got some happiness as Thibaut Courtois won for Best Goalie. Best Young Player was Mbappe for France, and Spain won the Fair Play Trophy. Okay, whatever. So yeah, so the World Cup is an interesting place, and hopefully 2022 is just as crazy as 2018. We can only hope. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond.